Well, welcome everyone to the OGM Podcast. I'm your host, Tina Olivero. And today we have a special guest with us, Julie Lemieux, who is the CEO of Triple Point Resources with us today. Julie and her team are spearheading a transformative project here in Newfoundland called the Fischells Salt Dome in Newfoundland, Labrador. And stay tuned, because today we're diving into the essential role of underground hydrogen storage in the energy transition. Julie, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome. I'm so happy to be here, Tina. It's awesome to be here.
There's so many people that are curious about your project and wanting to understand, what happens with underground hydrogen storage. So we'll delve into all of that. But before we do, could you please kind of give us a little bit of a lead in, your career, how you ended up being the CEO of Triple Point Resources and ending up here in Newfoundland in what is one of the most fascinating projects happening in Canada right now?
Yes, you're right. There's a lot of great projects in Newfoundland. So a little bit about my background. I'm someone that's been raised in South Shore of Quebec City, went to university in geomatics engineering. And from there, I went from one opportunity to another. In geomatics, you don't have really a subject, so you always need to learn something new. So for me to be in a new environment, new technology, or a sector that is just emerging, I feel very comfortable doing that. And in the last 10 years, I've been focusing with my own company, helping company to improve to be more efficient in their business, improve their business process improvement, reconnecting most of the time with their purpose. And at the same time, doing that, I really enjoy helping company who entertain maybe of going public to help them going public. And doing that, I met group of investors that are investing in a lot of different projects. Some of them were investing in Atlas Salt, and they wanted to do a spin out of their Salt Dome asset that they had for many years, so they can stay focused on developing the mine that's also happening in the same area, and having the chance to see what we can do with the Salt Dome. And they were looking for a CEO, someone that can take and discover what you can do with the Salt Dome, what can be done to develop this asset. And I was selected to do this. I've been here for now 2 years. And for me, I think during my career, everything came from one to another, and now it's a little bit the chance to put everything I've learned in the last 10 years, being close to Indigenous community, like I said, a different domain of expertise that sometimes not a lot of people have experienced. I feel very comfortable with the unknown, and here we go. I'm here now.
Yeah, well, this is certainly a pioneering project. So tell us about the Fischells Salt Dome project specifically. How is, first of all, how did they figure out that was a great place for storage? I mean, how did that all come about?
Yeah, well, let me start where it's located. So it is located on the west coast of Newfoundland, roughly 30 kilometers south of Stephenville. It's very close to the Trans-Canada Highway. It's 10 kilometers from the ocean, so it's a very good location to have an asset like this. And when the highway was built, and they've done a lot of seismic data, and they saw that there was a big anomaly there in the 60s. And some company were really interested by, okay, let's have a look and see if there is potash there, or let's see if there's oil around the dome. That's something that can be very common. So there was a company in the past who've drilled the anomaly and discovered that there was like very thick salt layer And then it was declared a salt dome for a long time now. So this dome has been there and known from geologists for a long, long time. But just in the last few years, we wanted to really see how we can develop it. So that was how a little bit how it started. But salt domes are not everywhere in the world, but there is a lot of them. There's more than 1,000 of them in the Gulf of Mexico. It's been used in the oil and gas industry for a long time, for more than 50 years now. So it's something that's been there for a long time. And now it happened that Newfoundland has a very, very large one, and we can use it to support the industry in Newfoundland and Labrador using compressed air. So we can build cavern to do compressed air to generate power, and we can also store hydrogen. But like in around the world, it's used to store hydrocarbon. The oil and gas industry has been used to use it.
Interesting. And when you say this is a big one, like give us some relativity compared to other projects, and it's also super deep as well, right? I mean, can you put it into context with us?
Yeah. So the salt dome itself is roughly 5 kilometers long by 4.5, 4.7 wide. We believe it's more than 1.5, from 1.5 to 2 kilometer deep. So that makes it very deep asset. And basically the difference between salt that you will find, like even at the site where Atlas Salt is located, this is bedded salt. This one have been compressed, and the salt structure moved up and got compressed with time. So the salt that is there is very, very tight, very, very dense. So it makes it a perfect medium to build cavern using solution mining and create those huge cavity that is surrounded by salt, where you can store, like in this case, it can be hydrogen or air, and it allow you to have on surface a very small footprint, but everything is happening underground. So that makes it fantastic, and it's like a big piece of the puzzle that you need in the oil and gas sector, that's been used in the oil and gas sector, and now that we have the opportunity to develop here in Newfoundland.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to building capacity and building infrastructure for that project, it's going to take a lot of people. It's going to take a lot of resources. Companies can position themselves to align with that project. Can you tell us about the magnitude of what it's going to take, the timelines, the people that are going to be needed, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we believe during construction, and it's a typical construction. So a lot of people, what is great, I think, for Newfoundland and Labrador is a lot of Newfoundlander and Labradorian are in the oil and gas sector everywhere in the world. A lot in Alberta, but everywhere as well. And the skill set that they have can be used for this project. It's very similar to the cavern you have in Fort Saskatchewan, as an example, in Alberta, or close to Sarnia in Ontario. There is cavern there. So it will be, we believe, between 700 and 800 people that will work on site for construction. And after construction, between 50 and let's say 70, 75 people will work there permanently. And I like to say that the opportunity that are there for the people are very specialized. Salt cavern are very unique to develop, to operate, to maintain. I know that there's some, I'm sure there's Newfoundland and Labradorian that have that expertise. And this is like a career that you have in front of you. It's in high demand around the world. The number of cavern will need to increase to support the industry, the hydrogen industry, but also the oil and gas industry. And the people who will have these job or these career with this asset will be in hopefully with us for a long time, and this asset will be developed for more than 100 years. So it's not just a few months of work. It will be there for a generation to come as well.
Right.
And that is something that is very unique, very important, and very different than like a typical mining project where sometimes it's for 30 years or 20 years. You will have a great job there, but this asset will be there for a generation. And I would say, with the size of the asset, if we build a few cavern every couple of years, like it can take 20, 25 years to build the number of cavern we can build in this asset.
Interesting. So it's a long-term mega project that could essentially be 100 years plus and continue be a progressive project as it goes.
Yeah, and it's because it's scalable. This asset offers us so much flexibility to accommodate the needs of the industry while it will evolve. It's not just a one-trick pony here. Like you can do compressor, you can generate power. That's what we are aiming for. We realize that there's a lot of needs for Newfoundland Hydro to get more power. I heard very clearly from the CEO of Newfoundland Hydro, Jennifer William, we need more power. Like I think by 2034, they have a need of 9.4 terawatt hour. Right now, it's closer to 8. How they will create all that power, we can help, and we can generate power. They're using compressed air and storing the hydrogen from wind farms to use locally. So we're not talking about export. We're talking about using the power of the wind to generate electricity for Newfoundland and Labrador first, and help all the organization to raise the bar and allow them to be able to operate even more. So I think that this is a great project and something that is very different than the wind to hydrogen project that we see right now, where a lot of them focus on the export. We're focusing on Newfoundland and Labrador first.
Most interesting. So yes, I believe she made that announcement at the last Energy NL conference. So, and this is the first time I've heard about the energy being localized at that level. As you say, most of the conversations have been how do we export it to the energy crisis in Europe. So that's great to hear. And like, what are the timelines? When's the project starting? The construction phase? How's it all going to play out?
Well, that's always a tricky question. We're advancing our engagement right now in consultation. We hope to register the project sometime in Q1 2025. So that is for us a major milestone. We know that we have an asset that is proven. So there's, in a way, we can always do more drilling, but at one point with the testing we've done in the spring with the old core that we have from the 60s and the 90s and the 2000 years, we were able to accumulate a lot of information on the quality, the density of the salt, and we can now position better our first cavern, if you want. So, and we want to work with the local communities and the people that live there to position this footprint where it should be. That's something that's very important for me. Like I've been close to a lot of oil and gas project where people come and say, here we go, here's the project we have, here's where it should be located, and people are asked to comment. So we take a little bit a different approach here, and we go and say, we have to position all these components. The best environment for those components to be is XYZ. where you think it can be close to this location. The dome cannot move. It's
Yeah.
underground. It's 500-meter underground, and it will not go anywhere. So there is some unflexible component that we have there. But there's a lot of flexibility of where things can be, and it's right on the Trans-Canada Highway, so it's not too difficult to access it. But we'll need to have a component to. We plan to use water coming from the ocean to do the solution mining. That's highly innovative. It's not something that you see a lot around the world, but having the fact that we're on an island, we don't want to use fresh water. That's what most people are doing around the world. We have the ocean right there. We know it's going to be more expensive to do this, but we believe it's the best way to do it, even if it will be a little bit longer because the water is already salted. And when you start the solution mining, then you dissolve the salt. So having fresh water, you can dissolve it quicker. Having ocean water, it's going to be a little bit longer, but we calculate that it will be just a few more months difference. So we believe it's the right way to do it. But where we're going to locate the access of that water intake from the ocean, then we want to work with the local community and people that live there that have a lot of experience, and they can align us a lot better.
Right. So roughly coming out of the gate in 2025, you start to ramp up. Your construction phase is 500 or 600 people, say roughly, for how many years would that construction phase be?
So
approximately. We're not going to hold to.
Yeah. But. So we believe we can be in operation in 2029, 2030. So it's a long view. We need to go through the environmental impact assessment. We need to have all of our permit. In Newfoundland and Labrador, there's no regulatory framework for underground storage the way we want it. So we've been in discussion with government already on how we can use a similar approach as Nova Scotia. In Nova Scotia, if this project was in Nova Scotia, we would be able to be permitted and have our permit to operate. In Newfoundland, we need to go through legislation and make sure we're going to be, and how long that's going to be, I don't know. So that is kind of a little bit unknown, but we believe even with these constraints that we can be operational by 2029, 2030 with a compressed air project. We don't plan to store hydrogen to start with. So it would take 3.5 years to build. And that will start, hopefully quickly, but I would say 2026. We can have our project approved and then it will start. So not 2025. We want to do everything right and according to the rules. So we need a little bit more patience here.
Yeah, so talking loosely with regulations and things coming in, possibility of 2026, construction phase, 600-700 people over the course of 3-4 years, and then getting into an operational phase of the project. And this is a mega project, just like any one of our oil and gas industry projects. And it's 30 clicks from Stephenville. So that means, a big influx of people, all kinds of different activities, and that's going to spin up activities for hotels, restaurants, and all kinds of retail. The actual, Stephenville itself as a hub, all kinds of interesting business opportunities going to come out of this. So it's super exciting for me and for Newfoundlanders to hear this type of project coming in. And it's unprecedented in Canada, the level of this project and the size and even the depth. I mean, you're talking 500 meters. That's taller that's longer. The Empire State Building is 443 meters, I think. And then Eiffel Tower is 324. Like, we're talking some serious depths here.
Yeah, definitely. And what it does is, and that's the difference between salt cavern that you have, let's say in Alberta or in Ontario, where they are very small cavern compared to the one we can build in Newfoundland. There's
Yeah.
no salt dome. There's salt deposit
Right.
in BC, in Alberta, in Saskatchewan, in Ontario, uh, but it's not the same type of salt. This unique asset is something where a lot of like Newfoundland can really become a hub,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and we can attract new business. You can imagine how much salt will come out of this um, asset. So
Right.
the salt business will be one of them. Like there
Mm-hmm.
is like enormous amount of salt that will come out. Then we have the cavity that is really to store or compress air, and then we can have other cavern that can start to accumulate hydrogen. We can help the wind to hydrogen industry to
Mm-hmm.
harness all the wind energy they will create through their turbine. When you look at some of the project where they have one or two tank to support their industry, this is great. But then we can make it even greater, and we can help them when the wind doesn't blow, or they want to export more. If we start accumulating more hydrogen in those caverns, like one cavern is the equivalent of between 500, 600 of those tanks. So if I was to take the tank from the port of Stephenville and connect them one beside each other, it will go from Stephenville all the way to the dome on the Trans-Canada Highway. That's the number of cavern you can have on a 30-kilometer stretch. But that will be on surface a 70-meter by 70-meter. Everything is on the ground. And the one you see in Europe, they are those dome are sometimes on farmlands. People live on top of
Yeah.
these facility everywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not
Right.
going to be different. So it's very a unique chance we have in Newfoundland to develop this asset and develop it at the pace we want to develop for the future and see where the industry is going to go. But let's start with Newfoundland and Labrador first.
Interesting. So such an interesting project. So, does it is when you we have like 5, 6 wind projects now in the pipeline? Would it be able to service all of those projects and more in terms of its hydrogen storage capacity?
So what we can do is when they have excess
Yeah.
energy, and they can decide to shut down operation because let's say their tanks are full, or
Yeah.
they can continue to make, like when the wind blows, and it blows a lot in Newfoundland,
Yeah.
you better harness everything you can. So all
Right.
the excess can navigate through the grid and be stored on the ground. We can
Mm-hmm.
electrolyze it at the dome, and then we can store it for later use
Mm-hmm.
anytime. And the beauty of those caverns is you can leave the hydrogen there for months. You
Right.
can release it on demand whenever you need it, or you can burn it locally to create more power on the grid for other company to come.
Right.
Or you can generate more exports. So when I say this asset becomes like very helping the sector to develop really a new industry in Newfoundland and Labrador, where all the excess can be stored, can be useful later, can help to stabilize the cost of the energy because you accumulate it. And it's really like the oil and gas industry. That's what the oil and gas industry is doing. When the demand is high, you need to provide as much as you can.
Right.
You can start accumulating at the same time excess in those caverns. And when you need it, because there's peak demand,
Mm-hmm.
then you have some. Like in the case of these projects, or even for Canada, to be able to really commit on large scale volume at a fixed price. There's no better way of having like a large scale storage. You see it
Yeah.
in the oil and gas. It will become the same thing for the hydrogen sector. and we have that unique asset that can be developed over time when it's required. I know that these projects just need to lift right now, and they don't need extra storage. They
Yeah.
just need to get going. Let's start. But one day, most likely, they will need more storage, and we'll be there for them.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And also, it positions Newfoundland as a global energy security and supply destination. From a global perspective, that's a very powerful place for the province to be.
Yeah, so I think it will help project to become more viable as well if they can maximize the use of their equipment, because
Yes,
the intermittency of wind, sometimes you can have 2 weeks of no wind. What you're going to do, how you're going to power yourself, you're going to connect to the grid to power your equipment. We
right.
will be there for that, and we will act like a pacemaker for the grid. So when the grid start to fade a little bit, then we can kick the compressor project that we have and help to create a lot more stability on the grid for any business, but also for those industry that's or in need of power, like the wind to hydrogen project are there, but there's a lot of other businesses that want to come online in Newfoundland. There's a lot of ambition in Newfoundland and Labrador, and we want to match that. We want to help the power grid to match the ambition of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Mhm. So it's stability of the energy grid, it's security of the energy grid. It's also, the building of a critical piece of infrastructure for the province that supports all of the wind energy and the global energy demand. So I understand why investors would be attracted to this. What kind of investors get involved in this project?
We've been close to originally with a lot of European investor. They feel the crunch on the energy crisis that they have right now. They hope we're going to be able to export even more. So they are very attracted by it. The Americans are very interested by it because you know what? They have no salt dome on all the eastern seaboard of North America.
Right.
It is the only one that is proven, ready to go, ready to be developed. This
Mhm.
is very unique, and I think for Newfoundland and Labrador to understand that from the Keys of Miami all the way to St. John's, there's no other asset like this, and the American needs storage. The Canadian company will need storage. Will become maybe a transit zone where people can come store, and then it can go somewhere else. Vessel can come and refuel and be certain that we will have the volume of hydrogen they need to power their vessel. Everything is coming together. I saw the other day a news on a cruise ship. A lot of cruise ships that are being built right now will be powered by hydrogen.
Yeah.
Oh, it would be great to have them come in the bay there and refuel and visit at the same time. Who knows what's going to happen in the future, but there is a push internationally for hydrogen to succeed. And this is having an asset like this will become it's the backbone of the industry. You
Right.
need large scale storage in the oil and gas, and you will need it for the hydrogen economy as well. And we
Mhm.
can maximize it with the asset we have on the West Coast.
Right. And Newfoundland being like a premium destination of shipping lanes, that's just another added benefit. But like you said, whether it's in tourism or oil and gas or other, whatever kind of shipping it is, we can be a point of stopping and destination for carrier vessels or whatever it is.
Yeah, and there is example like this all the time. Sometimes we speak with port in Europe. Well, you can imagine that if they have a big influx of product like hydrogen ammonia coming in, uh, they're wondering when all those projects will come online, are they going to be able to absorb all of the input they can have at their port? So they're looking at us being a buffer for them as well. So it can transit to where the dome is located. And then when they're ready, on demand, we can ship the volume they need. So again, that's something else that can happen in the future. But just on the compressor, generating a lot more power for Newfoundland and Labrador, I think it provide an opportunity that is very unique and be independent of maybe other source. Like if you look at the Newfoundland Hydro business plan, they want to, even if it's already very green using hydropower, you can decarbonize even more the industry and the island using compressed air. So it's the perfect match. Like you mix compressed air with the hydrogen. It helps with the intermittency of the wind. It can stabilize the influx on the grid. If you locate it all at one location, there's a lot of positive.
Yeah, for sure. To get back to something you said earlier, now we were in Nova Scotia, you said that environmental protocols are already in place and ready to go, but we're dealing with something brand new here in Newfoundland, and those systems are in place. Tell the government what's needed in order for us to get this approved at an appropriate time frame so that it is ready to go when it's needed. What's in the way? What do we need to do?
Well, there's multiple way of doing it. If you look at what Nova Scotia have done, I think they've done it very quickly. There's a lot of standard around the world to have to secure what you have in Cavern. Like Canada is leading the way in a lot of those rules and regulation. There is the Canadian Standard Association that is very active. So we introduce, I think, the right people to the government right now to have an independent view on how to do it best. So we provided them an overview of how it's done here in Canada, how it's done abroad. And these are the rules and regulation you can include in the legislation and in the regulatory framework. I think they need to, I know they are super overwhelmed with everything that is thrown at them. I hope it will be one of their top priority because it can really unlock a lot of the industry. So they have in front of them right now, I think we provided them with 3 different scenarios. We don't want to tell them what to do, but we gave them the information that is, I think, essential for them to make a good decision for Newfoundland and Labrador. And now I think it just need to become a priority. And I saw that Minister Parson will not run again. I think he's a big leader for us to advance this project. So if he can get that done before he leaves, it would be great. But it's really in most likely a lot of it is in his court right now, and hopefully we can convince him to get it done before I don't know, definitely in the next 12 months. So we can really advance. That's why we want to register the project and kick up those discussions even more. And we know it takes time, but I think there is a lot of experts here in Canada that can help them, that are independent, will provide them the right information to make the best decision. And sometimes, having I'm used to what's happening in Alberta. The way they adjust rules and regulation and legislation is they have industry around the table to help them frame what needs to be done. I think it's something else that Newfoundland and Labrador can use as a tool. Like the industry is ready to help and support decision making. And at the end, it's their decision anyway, but at least they have the right people around the table. So we are more than happy to participate in any discussion with government, and we're ready tomorrow to be there today.
Right. Good for you. I'm so glad that you're on top of it and that you are positioning yourself at early stages in the game with such an important critical piece of infrastructure to create the whole hydrogen a picture. Let's just like go out from a more global vantage point for a second and look at Newfoundland Labrador 10 years down the road. What do you see for our hydrogen projects? What do you see the province looking like?
Well, I see having this asset that will become the backbone of the industry. It will be essential to work collaboratively. Like we need to collaborate to really make it happen. We need to
Right.
innovate. We need to talk to each other. I know it was a competitive bid to get the crown land for those wind farms, but I think now is the time to work together to make the industry work
Mm-hmm.
as a group. And in 10 years, definitely, I don't know if all those projects will be online or not, but I definitely see the wind will not go away. The dome will not go away. I think those projects, having an asset like Fischel, will help them to be viable. And there's ways we can work with any proponent or any new group that will be interested to come to make those projects viable, share resources, and try to find ways to de-risk the project as much we can and save money working all together.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so that's what I see. And for when I go to Europe, when I was in Europe in the fall last year, in the spring, again, people can't believe that there's an asset like Fischel available on the eastern seaboard of North America. And
Yeah.
people are like, wow, this is the place that we need to start looking at to find solution all together. And everybody's looking at solution together.
Yeah.
Quebec has a big, Hydrogen Quebec, we're close with them as well. They have big needs. They are putting a lot of money to their grid infrastructure. Um, we want to make sure that their industry will succeed. We want to make sure that on any project that wish to have enough supply of hydrogen, they will have the confidence that they can make the switch themselves, because the volume we can have at Fischel will guarantee their supply
Right.
and will help to guarantee a price, maximize a price point where it makes it very attractive for industry to decarbonize.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Newfoundland really is in an advantageous position. Never before have we had assets that people are wanting before it's even produced yet. And on top of that, we have building infrastructure like Fischel that is being developed simultaneously. People are understanding the possibilities of the future, much like they did with the oil and gas industry, and are investing in building on that infrastructure. And for someone like me who's lived through the development of oil and gas for the last three decades, to see the whole industry. I mean, I started the OGM 6 years before we had any oil here. So to see it go from there, which is where we are right now in hydrogen, and see all of the infrastructure, all of the contractors, suppliers, major operators, subcontractors all come into alignment, come into play, is a fascinating economic experience. So that's what we have ahead of us, and it's exciting for the province, it's exciting for companies like yours, and it's exciting for our kids in the next generation. We're really setting them up to succeed when it comes to energy. World energy demand is always going to be there, and the province really does have the assets, and we're globally strategically in the right place at the right time.
Definitely, and I think the fact that the oil and gas industry came first for the hydrogen sector, like I was saying earlier, for us it's great,
Yeah.
because I remember the first year I was going to some event with Econex or Energy NL. The slogan was "Come home." Well, this
Mhm.
is the type of project that really you can come home, because
Right.
you accumulate so much experience and expertise through the oil and gas industry. That's one of the best bridge you have to go from the oil and gas industry to renewable, green. We use the same type of technology. It's very, very similar. So there's a lot of people that will be able to come back home
Yeah.
with this project.
There'll be a natural transfer of technology from one energy sector to the other. And the oil and gas industry is not going anywhere either, because world energy demand is so high. We're just going to become experts at getting to net zero. So that's the way I see it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So is there anything else you want to say before we clue up? We're like already 10 minutes over, but I'm so fascinated by the subject and the project and the possibilities for Newfoundlanders. Yeah, it's really exciting. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of that with us.
Yeah, well, I hope if people are interested by the story, they can sign up on our newsletter. They can go and have a look on our website. We will update our website as well soon. We're going to have engagement consultation session coming up on the West Coast in the next few months. I hope people will participate. We want to hear what people have to say. It's very important for us. Very exciting project. Every time I go in Newfoundland, and I'm going now more and more, it's very exciting to see how people are excited about the project and how they're surprised by the asset that's been there forever, but nobody knew. So now I hope people understand it better, and if there's any question, they can always reach me.
Yeah, it's an asset whose time has come. And your website is triplepoint.ca for anybody who's listening and wants to pop in and get that information. So, Julie, once again, thanks so much for joining us on our show. That's our show for today, folks. Keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the energy sector. I'm your host, Tina Olivero. So until next time, over and out.
Thank you, Tina.
Thanks.